Welcome to Scoop News Group's series on the new business of government. I'm Wyatt Cash, and today we're with Kris Rowley. Kris is the Chief Data Officer at the General Services Administration. Kris, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
So we want to talk today a little bit about data and your role in it. And one of the places I'd like to start is just tell us a little more about the fact that agencies have more data than ever before. And how easy or hard is it, would you say, for workers at government agencies to get a hold of that data and make sense of it?
Well, it's a good question, and we are experiencing an uptick in data and the number of applications that we're building, the speed in which we can build them, and the manner in which we can consume the data. I would say that across GSA, the access to data with tools and technology has made it easier. But by easier, I mean that there are pockets within the business that can come in and access that data, pull it into an environment of their own, and start to build and do insights on that data. As those organizations mature, you start to see these teams grow, organically grow across GSA. And the size of them, if you think of them as a circle, grows and expands as they consume more and more data from these applications. Over time, they become mini center of excellences, which is good. And you have these innovators trying to create and provide insights to the business to make better decisions, to drive efficiencies. And then over time, you start to see other circles overlap with those circles. And that's when sometimes things become a little bit more difficult to manage, is to determine who is actually providing the best data, the most insightful data to the business leaders in order to make good decisions. And sometimes that information starts to conflict when people are pulling data in from different sources and they're using them just slightly differently, but they're pushing them up to the same leadership chain. And that's where sometimes information starts to conflict with one another.
Can appreciate that. Well, you mentioned some of the challenges that are already occurring at agencies, but tell us a little more about how we're using data and the challenges of using data more specifically for planning, budgeting, and forecasting activities.
Yeah, I think, in an environment in which people are trying to be as efficient as possible and try to manage their resources as effectively as possible, I think one of the challenges you face in mid and large-sized organizations is how do you take those top-line numbers with people focused on enterprise forecasting or enterprise planning with thousands of people and billions or millions or billions of dollars and trying to develop some type of forecast model, and align that with the center of excellence that I talked about before, who are doing their own analysis, using their own assumptions, using their own algorithms and their own planning mechanisms. And how do you integrate those two capabilities to take something as high as how do we decrease our resources by 3% over the next 5 years to people who are actually trying to do that at a very micro level, program by program, and how do you blend these two together to make this macro view of forecast and planning assumptions meet the realities of the way in which people are actually operating in these little center of excellence. So bridging that gap between practitioners and people building scenarios, that's really the challenge. And they're all trying to consume the same data.
Can you give a little example of how you're building those bridges?
Well, one of the things we're trying to do is identify all of our enterprise data, our quote unquote enterprise data, and I use that term very loosely. And how do we consume all of that into a common platform? And then how do we make that accessible both to people who are trying to do high-level planning and assumption building based on guidance coming from very senior leadership, and also make that accessible to the practitioners who are trying to use it for day-to-day management of operations, as well as shorter-term planning, maybe 6 months, a year down the road. And how do you try to track those uses of that data so that you can bring these people closer together to say, hey, here is the analysis being done at the grassroots level in this capacity, and here are some assumptions you're trying to build and they don't quite align. And you try to bring those people together by leveraging technology so you can see who's accessing that data, what they're doing with it, and then try to bring those groups together.
Talk to me a little bit about how GSA is helping managers actually make more data-driven decisions around those budget allocations and mission readiness programs and so forth to better serve customers.
Right. One of the things we are doing is in terms of reporting, and what we're trying to do is GSA is a regional-based organization, and we have people doing design and construction projects in our buildings all over the country. What we're trying to do is establish some mechanism, some dashboarding capability that allows building managers across the country to see to report on and see how they're reporting on their specific project, but also use that to be able to aggregate all that data for a higher level dashboard so that you can see in totality how we're doing in that project. And that way you're again trying to bridge that gap between the practitioners within the regions who are doing their day-to-day jobs, elevate that up to senior leadership within that region, and then also bring it across the country into a headquarters level view. That way everyone's talking about the same data in the same way. And we're trying to develop a mechanism for people to have a portal that they can log into, go to a single dashboard, see how their individual project is rolling up into the headquarters project, and all the way along, on all the managers along the way.
And lastly, how is GSA working to put the data in the hands of more, I'll say, day-to-day decision makers, in contrast to analysts and data scientists, so that sort of more of the rank and file can make better decisions?
One of the things we're really been pushing is self-service analytical tools, right? And to make sure that we have capabilities for people who are developers to get access to development tools, to build reports and dashboards, and at the same time make sure those people who need that data on a daily basis have a mechanism to get access to that data. And that has always existed. There's always been that access to, I have an application, I have a reporting tool that's associated with that application. I can log into that reporting tool, get my data for my report. I think the difference here is we're trying to take that data and bring it to a common environment so that the business rules being applied are consistent, whether it's a day-to-day practitioner or a very senior person within the agency.
Well, Kris Rowley, thank you so much for joining us, sharing some of the things that you're working on at GSA. Really appreciate you stopping by.
No, thanks for having me. It was enjoyed talking to you.
Terrific.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. Look for more of our coverage on the new business of government on our website. I'm Wyatt Cash, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.